If they ain't cooking, I don't want it.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Ins and Out D podcast. It is your boy DT Sensei back again after a tremendous weekend. For those that did not know, it was my spring break, but I had plenty of time to share my knowledge and share some thoughts about the upcoming draft, which just passed this weekend. The NFL draft is officially over. The draft fatigue that we all have been gaining for like the past couple of months is finally over. So there's no more draft talk. The draft is officially over. But now we can get to talk about the picks that the Washington Commanders have made. And we'll also do another video to talk about all the picks overall with some of the teams. I'm going to do a little series grading some of the draft classes that I have seen this year. But obviously, I'm a Commanders fan. We're going to go ahead and start with the Washington Commanders draft. Now, just to share a little bit of thoughts before we go by player, this was a draft where it was a lot of unpredictable things that happened on, especially the first night. Bunch of trades. Teams were traded out. Teams were trading up. There was some players of need that got trumped by best player available for a lot of spots. And I think for Washington, we've been saying, there are some of the needs that we have. Obviously, edge rusher, running back, wide receiver, O line, just to name a few. There was a lot of spots for Washington was able to try to build with some youth in mind for those spots. But not everything. I think will go as planned for a lot of people because I think for the fans' sake, yes, there is one position obviously that did not get addressed draft wise, but I don't think it's the end of the world that this position did not get solved, or there's a reason why they didn't draft for this certain position, and that's obviously edge rusher. Edge rusher was not addressed by Washington Commanders in this draft. But I don't think, once again, I don't think it's the end of the world because this team was ranked 11th overall in getting to the quarterback. The pressure rate was also high as well. I can't remember at the top of my head, but they were able to get pressure on the quarterback. Now, obviously, there are some teams that have a guy that can consistently get there. And it's a by committee approach by Washington last year. Frankie Louvu and Dante Fowler Jr. were the guys that led the team in sacks. Fowler is gone, so now a lot of people are panicking about what to do at edge rusher. But I just say, trust Adam Peters and trust this process because it's still free agents out there. It might not be the ones we want, but they can help and contribute to this team. I don't think it's the end of the world that Commanders did not address edge rusher, especially at the very first pick, I would say. But with that being said, this was still a good draft class for Washington. Now, we only have 5 picks this year because a lot of them were traded to get players such as Deebo Samuel and Larry Tunzel and Marshawn Lattimore. So also keep that in mind. Shout out to my guy, Deuce Red Zone the Lab, for he had a tweet that had during the time of the draft was going on, all the picks that was being made, and he included the players that we traded for with those picks. So think about those guys added to this team as well as draft picks, especially for the value that they were. So clearly, I have no problem with this draft. Also, the undrafted free agency is looking pretty strong as well. They're signing a couple guys at certain spots, such as safety, corner, and running back. So I like what I've seen so far. But we're gonna go ahead and talk about the 5 picks that Washington made from Thursday to Saturday. So let's go ahead with the first one. The first one is Josh Carnley Jr. Josh Carnley Jr., the left tackle out of Oregon. Now, for those that know me, I do a Commanders uh, draft podcast with Deuce, Kyle, and Smoke and Radar on the Red Zone Lab channel, and we talk plenty of the prospects this season, but we did not get to the offensive line because just for certain reasons, we were pretty packed with a lot of players. Some of the classes were pretty deep, especially like running back, defensive end, defensive tackles. There was talks about us doing another episode just to go over some of the main guys that we've seen, but I am kind of sad we didn't go over tackles because he definitely would have been one of those tackles we would talk about. So let's talk about Josh Carnley Jr. He is a left tackle out of Oregon. He has played 2 years, 1,000 snaps, only allowed 2 sacks as the starter. And I'm gonna be completely honest with you. During the live show, I was cut off guard that they did add another tackle, add another offensive lineman. But I think that's just natural because, it's offensive line and it's not the sexy pick, but it's still a good pick because that you're trying to fix the trenches. And for Washington last year, the trenches that I literally discussed in my video, the first video of this year, after the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I was like, Washington just needs to build the trenches. They need to build the trenches because that's how the trenches won. We have the quarterback, now build around them. And the best way to build around your quarterback is to have a great offensive line. They traded for Laramie Tunzel. They drafted Brandon Coleman last year, who played tackle. There's consideration highly of him being a guard. You signed Tyler Biotis last year. You have Sam Cosby, who, although he is injured currently right now, we are expecting him back mid-season of this upcoming season. And you had guys like Nick Allegretti and Andrew Wiley, who started last year and played fairly well, but you're going to start to replace those guys and they will be backups. So when I look at this team, if you have a Laramie Tunzel, you have a Brandon Coleman at guard, you have Tyler Biotis, you have Sam Cosby once he gets healthy, and you have Josh Carnley playing right tackle. Your starting 5 is night and day for what it is. It's more athletic. They're going to get more out of the run game. They're going to get more out of the screen, more out of the passing game. They don't have to use the tight ends or running backs to chip as much because you can trust those starting 5 to defend as much as they can. I grew uneasy about the pick at first because it was offensive line, and I know edge rushers were there. There was a lot of best player available on the board, but Adam Peters has shown me that he's going to go with his board. He's going to go with his board, and Josh Carnley was the top-rated guy on the board. He was the guy that they actually wanted at 29. He was nervous the entire draft that he was going to get picked early, which surprised me as well because I really thought Houston was going to have an opportunity to draft him at 25. But it was either 24 or 25. I think 24 was Minnesota. But around the 25, 26 range, the Texans were there. They traded out because the Giants wanted to get their quarterback of the future. So shout out to AP. Shout out to the scouting crew they got a starting right tackle on the other side to go with Laramie Tunzel. So now you have 2 bookends, and your interior is much more athletic. Now, the way I picture it now, I would assume either that it'll be Nick Allegretti or Andrew Wiley at the right guard spot. We'll see once we get into mini camps and training camp this year, or OTAs, to see how they assess the lineup and how they mix and match some of the offensive linemen all together. But I'm giving it the Josh Carnley pick A plus. It's an A plus pick. I was caught off guard again. Like, I was on the show, I was like, oh man, there's guys there. But one starting to look at it. Look, you're protecting your investment, and that's Jaden Daniels. You're helping Jaden Daniels ascend to a level that we want him to ascend to at the quarterback position. And the best way to help your quarterback ascend is to keep him off the grass, keep his jersey clean. So Josh Carnley will come in and do that. All right, the next pick will be Trey Amos. Trey Amos, the cornerback out of Ole Miss. This guy has played in multiple schools. He played at University of Louisiana Monroe, played with guys like Percy Butler, Andre Jones, then transfers to University of Alabama, up the competition, playing the SEC, and then transfer again, playing at Ole Miss in the SEC. So 2 years in the SEC and also one couple years level playing smaller competition. So Trey Amos was a guy that we highlighted as well in the draft process as a potential fit for the Washington Commanders at corner. You get a feisty guy who could play on the outside, about 6'6", 6'1", 200 pounds, very physical corner, can play the run, shows great hip ability and agility to adjust himself in coverages. He could play off, he could play press very well. Obviously, when we talk about physicality, that's what DQ and Joe Witt want. And those guys know what they want in a cornerback, and he will also add complete value because, and not only him, but Josh Connolly, because now you had spots that you were kind of questionable about, and you add two guys that will fix literally two positions. Josh Connolly comes in, and there were questions about Brandon Coleman. Can he play right tackle? Well, you don't have to worry about that now because you have Connolly who will play right tackle, and you have Coleman who will play guard. He's playing inside people. But with Trey Amos, you have another guy on the outside, and I mean outside of Marshawn Lattimore. And you will have Mikey Sandersfield, who played outside last year based on predicaments that was handed to this team with the Emmanuel Forbes and Benjamin St. Juste type of players to play inside. And that will make this defense 10 times better because you got two guys that can play on the outside and two guys that can play inside, also including Jonathan Jones, and also Noah Ingogbe. Noah had a solid season last year with us playing in the slot. So you have depth. You made the corner room extremely stronger, absolutely stronger. And Trey Amos is a dog. Just most definitely, he's the type of guy we need in that corner room to go with Marshawn Lattimore. You need some feisty guys when we play in the same division as elite neighbors, AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, CD Lamb. You play those guys 2 times a year, and you're going to need as much help as you need in the backfield against those type of wide receivers. So I'm also going to give the Trey Amos pick an A+ because, for one, they also consider him at 29. So that tells me as a football fan that they had a first round grade on Trey Amos. So you essentially got 2 first round players, and one of them was in the second round, fell all the way to 61. Now, also there was conversation about at those 2 spots about trading back and getting more picks. And that's probably was the last time they had a good opportunity to trade. There were talks about them teams trying to trade up with Washington. And to me, when I look at that, I honestly don't have a problem with Adam Peters sticking to his board, sticking to his gun, sticking to his gut, at staying at 29 and 61, taking the best players on the board and going quality over quantity. Quality over quantity. The quality of having a Connolly and a Trey Amos, to me, is much better than getting multiple picks, and a lot of those guys probably will not pan out. That's just being real. So Trey Amos, I give that an A+. We got another outside guy to help us in the secondary when we play these teams with strong wide receiving cores and strong passing offenses. I absolutely love this pick, man. I love it. All right. And we now head to the fourth round. We're at pick 128. Washington Commanders draft wide receiver Jaylen Lane out of Virginia Tech. Now, Jaylen Lane, this was, I'm going to just shout him out. Shout out to Kyle from the Burgundy Zone podcast for being on the draft show. And when we talked about the wide receiver group, this is one of the guys he highlighted. Now, obviously, I'm from the 757, so I know a lot about Virginia Tech football. And the first thing that really popped up in my mind when watching them guys was their was really dysfunctional, but they really had two key players that was helping them save their season. And that was Marshall Tutton, the running back who got drafted as well, and Jaylen Lane. Those guys were the two lightning bugs for that a dismal offense for Virginia Tech. And when you just pull up the tape and when you just look at Jaylen Lane just got speed. And I mean speed. Speed that will help this team that lost a De'Ami Brown. And he's much faster than De'Ami because De'Ami ran a 4.4. He ran the 4.35, the same 4.35 as Terry McLaurin when he was coming out. So you get a guy that not only helps in the wide receiver room with speed and can play the slot and play some outside, you have someone that can be a return specialist, something that we have been lacking for a mighty, and I mean mighty long time. Dude is a special teams demon. He returned a couple of touchdowns past couple of years. He's able to get the yardage, and for a team that is going to be competing for Super Bowls and competing for NFC supremacy, Washington wants to up the special team game, and where we don't have to keep giving long field for Jaden Daniels, short field, and we can cash in on the opportunities with this offense. Jaylen Lane, I'm gonna say it right now. When I see Jaylen Lane, it reminds me of when we drafted Terry and we drafted Jameson Crowder, two guys that essentially we didn't really think they were going to contribute as much on offense because we hired them as special team guys, but they exceed expectations. So I'm here to tell you guys this. I will not be shocked if Jaylen Lane gets a large surplus of amount of opportunities on offense this year with his speed. And rightfully so. De'Ami being gone is going to be missed due to his speed, and Jaylen Lane brings that. And he also had bad quarterback play at Virginia Tech. Inaccurate throws, having to come back for throws, under throws, stuff like that. Jaden Daniels is not going to miss those. Jaden is not going to miss those. So I'm going to be very excited for the opportunity that Jaylen Lane will have in this wide receiver room because he can definitely be wide receiver 3 if I'm keeping in the stack. Having a Terry, a Debo, and a Jaylen Lane, also mixing with some Noah Brown and whoever else is competing for the final spot. I love this pick. I'm also going to give this a plus pick because I love this pick so much. And he's really going to have a great opportunity to contribute for this team on special teams and on his offense. So Jaylen Lane, I love this pick very much. All right, the next pick will be Kane Madden, the linebacker out of UCLA. Now, this is also another guy we talked about on the show. We didn't talk as much as in length because this is probably the only time where I'll consider, not a AA plus pick, but I understand pick. For Washington, that makes sense is outside of a Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu, the linebacker room is very, very thin. Very, very thin. Jordan McGee, we drafted him last year, but he also had an injury, which kind of took majority of his season, and he never really got back to the rhythm of things, I would definitely say, because he was getting a lot of first team reps in the preseason. with Bobby Wagner, with Frankie Louvu. They would rotate in and out. Those reps were very valuable, and I think he never got back into the flow of things after the injury, so he played majority of special teams. Drafting Kane helps with the depth of the linebacker group because it's very thin after Bobby Wagner and Frankie Louvu. Now, other things are when I seen him, I could see the transition he was making because he was a former wide receiver at the University of UCLA. Um, there are some things that he is definitely still raw at. I'm gonna be completely honest. There are some things that he can still work on, such as tackling. Um, especially tackling. I feel like he missed a lot of tackles at time, failing to wrap up. Coverage can be a little bit better. I could tell he's still learning the game as a linebacker, adjusting his hips, learning where to flow to where the football is. Um, I I like the pick. I do believe they probably could have went another direction. I per se, but I think it makes sense. It makes sense to get a linebacker, especially how lacking the linebacker room after a couple of spots. And then if Bobby gets hurt or Frankie, like you don't have nobody to back those guys up. Um, I would put some trust that we'll get more out of Jordan McGee this year. Hopefully we prayfully he doesn't get injured. And also I think King Miranda will also learn as well behind Bobby Wagner, understanding. I also think there could be some sub packages for him too, because he's a pretty athletic player um, for this team at the linebacker spot. So I think for myself that I like this pick. So I'm gonna give it I'm gonna give it a B minus. A B minus because I think this is a player that's gonna grow as seasons go along until he gets a true opportunity. But I see him more as a special teams guy that's gonna help contribute on special teams and provide some help and some sub packages with his athleticism. Try to take Bobby Wagner off the field a little bit more. He played like 99% of the snaps, which is absolutely insane considering how old he is. Um, no offense to him, but I could definitely see where there are some things. It's like, okay, if we had someone with some speed and ability to adjust, I think this play would be completely different for my defense. So Kane, I'm giving him a B minus because I like the pick. I understand the pick. I just felt like maybe they probably would have went somewhere else a little bit, like a safety. I think the safety room is a little thin, even though we signed a couple of undrafted free agents. So we'll see how that safety room pans out as we get to OTAs, minicamp, and training camp per se. And the last guy, the last pick of the Washington Commanders. This is by far, and I mean by far. I know I said the Jaylen Lane pick was my favorite, but ladies and gentlemen, when I talk about Jakori Merritt, running back out of Arizona, this dude is a lightning bug. He dude was a lightning bug, bro. He's he was one of my favorite running back prospects this year. Um, so let me tell you his story a little bit. He started out at Alabama State. He transferred to New Mexico, where he has a crazy season with the Lobos. Then decides to transfer to Arizona, and for whatever reason, he had eligibility issues after his first game where he had 13 carries for like 107 yards against the very team that he transferred from. This dude is a magnified baller. I'm talking about the speed, the agility, the jump cuts. He is everything that this team needs when it comes to that style of running back to complement a Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler. I love this pick. Now, do I think he'll be RB1 come training camp? No, absolutely not. But I think there's definitely some growing um anticipation that as the season goes goes along, I think this guy can be the starting running back for Washington. I love the way he plays. I love his running style. It fits what we need. We don't have a explosive back like this. We don't until we got him. The last time we had any type of explosion when talk about the backfield, quite frankly, hmm, I'll probably have to say Clinton Portis. Clinton Portis was the last explosive running back we had. There are some guys we did draft, but they didn't pan out. Um, well, maybe Chris Thompson. Chris Thompson was very explosive as well. But Croskett, Croskett Merritt is a running back that I feel as the season gradually goes along, he's going to get more touches. He's going to get more carries. He's going to have a couple of 100-yard games, and he will be the starting running back at the end of the season. And also consider it drafting a running back. You have these guys at the last year of their contract. That's Brian Robinson. That's Austin Eckler. That's Jerry Nichols, who signed a 1-year deal. And you also have Chris Rodriguez as a restricted free agent, I believe. So I love this pick. This is by far my favorite pick because I feel like he's going to help us so much. He's going to help us a lot for this team. And that's all I have for you guys for the 2025 NFL Draft. Who was your favorite pick this weekend for the Washington Commanders? What was your least favorite pick of the Washington Commanders? So if you all get an opportunity, click like and subscribe to the channel. Get my views up, get my subscribers up. We're doing good things on the channel. Right? Also, stay tuned for the Command Time podcast. This week we will be premiering on Wednesday to discuss and review the NFL draft. My gal Kayla and my guy Caleb. So shout out to y'all. Stay tuned for that episode coming up. And that's all I have for y'all tonight. I'll catch you guys next time. We will be reviewing, I'll be giving out grades for all the draft classes overall. So y'all have a safe night, and I'll catch y'all next time.
If they ain't cooking, I don't want it.